Hello, welcome to this live drafting diaries with me, Charlotta from the School of Pattern Cutting, and Kate from Project Patterns. Our April theme for this month is shirt details, and we've picked a fantastic selection of classic and a bit more fun and innovative details you can add to any shirt or shirt dress, whether you want to go all white and classic menswear style or have a bit of fun. Before we get started, Kate, can you quickly introduce yourself if people haven't watched you before or met you before?
Sure. So, hello everyone. I'm Kate from Project Patterns. I'm a professional pattern cutter working in London, and I've been working in industry since 2014, so quite a long time now. Started Project Patterns to share my love of pattern cutting and knowledge with all of you guys. So now I do online classes, I do one-to-one lessons, I do free tutorials, all that kind of stuff. You can find me on my website, www.project-patterns.co.uk, and you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Project Patterns.
And I've put the links in the description. If I haven't, I will do this afterwards. So you can find Kate. And if you come from Kate's side, then I'm Charlotta. I'm a pattern cutter, designer, and teacher. I'm never sure which hat I'm wearing. I'm quite passionate about vintage pattern cutting, but also just helping people make their own clothes. And I'm also online on my membership and my courses, which is literally the patternCutting.school. So now you know both who we both are. Let's get started. And we're going to talk about 4 different details, and then we're going to do about 10 minutes of questions afterwards if there are any. And I can see lots of people joining. So hello Suzanne and hello Laura. Yes, feel free to pop in the chat and say hello or put in a question, and then we try to scroll through and find them at the end. So Kate, let's get started, please.
Okay, so the first kind of category that we wanted to speak about was collars. Now, of course, you will all be familiar with your standard shirt collar. It looks like the one Charlotta is wearing. But this is an area we can get super creative with, and you can really have a lot of fun with your collars. You don't have to keep it as a standard shirt collar. You can do all kinds of things. So the first thing we want to talk about is creating fun shapes with your collars. Now, this is a really lovely example. These sort of like cute paws from the cat. I'm a good cat person, so this is definitely one to please me. And it's super easy to do. You can just change the point of your collar. You can change it into a round shape. You can change it into a little paw shape like this. There is another example on our Pinterest board as well of little hand shapes as well. You can really go to town and play around with this. And of course, adding the embroidery is a really lovely detail as well.
Yes, and of course, if you don't like cats, you don't have to do cat seek. But just be aware, your collars don't need to be pointed. They can be any shape. And it would be, most of the time, you use a 2-part collar to do that. So you can have lots of fun once you know how to draft it. And I think both Kate and I have tutorials for that on our courses. Might be one on YouTube for me. The second one we wanted to look at is, again, the classic shirt collar, so the 2-part collar you probably all tried or at least worn. And this is one of the most famous one, which is the Victor and Rolf one. And what's great about this, it's basically just layers of a collar. But of course, from a pattern cutting point of view, it's quite interesting because each layer will grow slightly bigger. So you could just do 2 and have fun, but one is much bigger than the other, one is much smaller, or you could do lots of layers like Victor and Rolf has done. I quite like this one, which is just a double collar and it's tied on. So it's the same method, but the top one you can see is tied on with a bow. So you can take it off and iron, because I didn't want to do this image. Kate found it because it's from the Met Archive. And can you see, it needs a good press. And I think that's what you have to be aware as well. Because if you work in a really beautiful cotton and you do a multiple detail like that, that'd be a real pain to iron once you've worn it a few times, won't it, Kate?
Yeah, 100%. I think that would go in my I'm not ironing it, so I'm not going to wear it pile.
But the thing is, even if you have it dry cleaned or professionally cleaned, it's still somebody will have a very good quality iron, but they still will have to press all these layers, because I think they're all stitched together. So that'd be quite fascinating to see how a shirt like that ages, isn't it? So,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. And you can
I
find,
think for me, the interesting No, go on.
I was going to say, you can find all these images on our Pinterest if I'm too fast for you.
Yeah, and heaps of other ones as well.
Yeah.
So there's loads of inspiration for everyone out there. I think for me, the fun thing about that multiple collar of the Rolf and Russo one is that not only do they get higher up the body, but they all have to get smaller as they go. So it's a really fun drafting exercise. You can see they're kind of like stepped in.
Yeah.
And that is it's just a really fun detail. I really like it. It's kind of getting a little bit like Alice in Wonderland-y with our garment.
Yeah, I think that's because I think they're probably all the same height, center front and center back, but they are getting bigger, and they're both in actual collar size and neck size. So you are really experimenting with what looks where it stacks up exactly like that, and one is much bigger than the other. So yeah, it's one of those you might want to try out, just for fun.
Yeah. So the other collar example we wanted to talk about was taking your ending it down and then actually stitching it into your placket. Now, again, this is something that looks so complicated, but it's actually super, super easy to do from a drafting point of view. Can be a little bit trickier from a stitching point of view, but for drafting, it's super easy. You just extend your collar shape, make it a bit bigger, and then pop it into your placket. And you can take that insertion into different points as well. There's another example that we had where it's inserted just for a little piece at the bottom, and then there's more of like a keyhole through the upper section of your placket. Or you can do like the blue example there and extend insert into the whole placket and then into a bit of the collar there as well. And it's just a really fun detail. It looks really like 3D,
Yes.
But it's really just a collar down.
Yeah, it's sort of a perfect compromise between like a bow and the collar. It has the softness of a tie bow, and then it has that collar look. It's really clever, isn't it? I wonder whether the back must be, it's like a double fold, isn't it? Sort of, it be quite, again, a really nice puzzle to figure out how you can put it all together and make the pattern pieces. As Kate said, the drafting is quite easy. And worst come worst, you could just draft the collar and just draw on the extra bit you need on your trowel and then just stick it onto it.
Yeah, that's probably how I would end up doing it, actually, just because I'm quite organic like that. I would want to actually just get fabric and pin it on, and then you can really see exactly where you want to insert it and how that's going to work in real life.
Back hits the neckline, isn't it? All these sort of things.
Yeah. And you can get creative with that. You can add more volume, so it almost like frills down rather than having that kind of very defined edge. You can make it so it's quite frilly down there as well.
Yeah,
you can really have a lot of fun with this.
I think we might have one on our Pinterest there. It's that sort of frill. It's like it might be quite Gucci, I'm thinking. Can it be?
Okay. Possibly.
Okay.
I'm having a little flick through to see if I can see it.
Yes, I was going to say the next thing we're going to talk about were big sleeves, but I'm missing. Can you do the bishop sleeve for me, Kate, on your computer while I'm talking about it?
Yes, I can. Give me a moment.
Thank you. As always, we're saying one day there'll be a life where we don't have technology issues, but today, not today. So, have a look on our Pinterest, but we both like this just as an example how extreme you can go with volume. So this is just a bishop sleeve. So a sleeve where you added lots of volume towards the cuff, and then you just added all the volume to the back only. So it's like a wavy line at the hem, and then it just all gets gathered into your cuff. And this is really extreme, but of course, just instead of your straight classic sleeve, adding a bit of volume and then gathering it, make it look completely different. Whether it's sort of more romantic, if it was like a thin cotton, it become quite romantic, and if it's something really big like that and a really crisp, or that's the organdy or something, isn't it, on organza?
Yeah, I was thinking it's an organza, probably.
Yeah, something like that, isn't it? So
yeah, it has that like lightweight bounce to it. That it's not like a chiffon that drops. It has a bit of body, a bit of bounce.
So I was thinking even organdy, which is a cotton organza, and that is even stiffer. So that would become like a cloud of volume. So that'd be really beautiful. But again, it's a really basic pattern cutting technique. You can adapt to your style, and it works really nice to update a classic shirt you might have.
Yeah, and that's a really fun thing about playing with proportions like that. You can take a simple idea and just really push it as far and as extreme as you possibly want. And you can create these huge 3D garments from like a very basic pattern drafting method.
And again, on the other end, if you can get inspired by that and actually then think, hey, I'm not going to have floor-length sleeves in everyday life, but just by rather than having a evenly gathered bishop sleeve. I know Kate probably goes to the office like that. But rather than adding your volume,
I could.
Yes. Sort of like you can imagine picking out all the rubbish on the way to the office.
Can you imagine if it rains and it gets like wet at the bottom?
Or if you have a tube and it gets stuck in like a door. Not the best fashion moment. So for the office or everyday life, you might want to make it shorter, but having that asymmetric volume where it's at the back, I really like that look. And of course, it's really practical. Because if you ever have like one of those, bishop drapey sleeve at the front, it's actually really unpractical because it gets stuck into stuff. And by having it at the back, it's sort of out of the way as you're going around your daily life.
Just swanning into the studio. Okay, so the next sleeve example we wanted to talk about was creating a round sort of geometric shape with your garment. And you could do this creating a circle using your sleeves in this way. So this is a really fun thing to do. If all you are going to do is take your outside seam of your sleeve and then add your shape onto that. So take the center of a sleeve, draw straight down, cut it open, and add that 3D shape on there. Now, of course, this example is a circle, but you could do it with a heap of different designs. If you want it to be a square, you could do it with a square. You could do more like wavy lines rather than a straight circle. You could do all kinds of things. And this example here is a raglan sleeve, which works really well with this type of design because you already have your shoulder seam going all the way from your highest shoulder point to your shoulder point and then down the center of your arm. So you already have that seam position in there. All you're doing is adding extra shape on there to create more of that 3D effect.
Yes. And I was going to say, because if you have a normal satin sleeve, you probably have some sleeve head ease. And of course, you have to get rid of it before you add your seam. Otherwise, you will have gathers and a seam. And of course, again, this is like a organza or something like that, something with a lot of volume. But if you did in a normal cotton, it's just be a really nice, unusual, voluminous sleeve. But it'd be really nice if you had a plain fabric and it just adds a bit more interest. Or if Kate said, rather than going round, if you actually went up or something, you then end up again with that really interesting drapey sleeve head for a bit more detail on a classic shirt. So that was our second sleeve. We wanted to talk about. The next one we wanted to talk about was really sack posen, which is actually a bit like that again, but this one is a really interesting example because it has this. I'm just looking at it properly. I think it's just again where you draw on your lines. And then instead of adding a seam like we did before, you just add volume. So you do a slash and spread. But then what's quite nice, it's left open at the bottom. So these actually become like a pleated skirt, so to speak, or like sort of a handkerchief. When you hold up a handkerchief and it creates this beautiful deep pleats. And that's what it basically is, like a handkerchief version of a sleeve. And again, you could, something like that, you could just get a piece of fabric and pin it to your skirt and to your sleeve until you get the volume you want, or you can cut and slash it. But I think I would just pin it on an existing sleeve to see how much volume you need.
Yeah,
I think there's 3 of them, or 3.
Yeah, I would do the same. I'd probably pin it on the stand. And if you're wanting to really exaggerate that structure, that kind of like shorter diagonal edge, the bottom edge, you can stitch those to each other and then put something in the seam to reinforce it so that you're creating those pleats almost and added volume and then sort of cut a section out and stitched it together to create that very 3D shape.
Can you repeat the last sentence? You just broken up and it was something really interesting.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, guys. I'm in South Africa. Forgive me for my internet connection. So another way that you can do it if you really want to add a bit of like exaggerate those shorter diagonal edges, the bottom edge, is to actually stitch them together. So Elia did quite a lot of skirts in this way, where he added loads of volume and then cut pieces out and then stitch those seams together. So those shorter diagonal edges could be bagged out with each other, and then you can put something in those seams, you know, maybe like a cord, or if you really want to get super exaggerated, like more of like a boning or something like that, or even just like fusing, just to really exaggerate that bottom edge and give it that extra little bit of crispness to keep that shape.
Yes, that'd be really beautiful. I think these ones that look like they're just pin hemmed, don't they?
Yeah, I think they are. Yeah.
But again, like this is a lot of them, so they're quite over top. So if you just had one of them just on your top line, like your rounded sleeve before, would just be just quite a nice detail. Actually, it would be quite interesting on a shorter sleeve as well. Sort of maybe have to sort of try it out. Has Kate? I looked very concentrated, which probably means you're frozen. I thought it would be quite interesting on a shorter sleeve as well for summer. That might be quite nice.
Yes. Yeah, and I was going to say, if you do it in a softer fabric, then it will become quite like petally.
Yeah.
Quite romantic.
Be like that. Yeah. Be beautiful. Yeah. Drapey sleeves. That would be really nice. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
You always end up planning our future ideas for tutorials. So
I feel like we could design whole collections in these little tutorials. So the next section we want to talk about is yokes. So obviously you all know a classic position for a yoke on a tailored shirt is on the back. And I know people have lots of different methods for sewing them. The burrito method is a good one. There we go. We can see Charlotta's one there. Yokes are normally 2 layers of fabric, and they're normally cut on the cross grain to give a bit of stability. But of course, we can get creative with them. So normally on a men's shirt, we have our double layer yoke, and then we have a little pleat underneath.
Yes.
And we have then our back piece going into that, where that pleat is, and then going straight down the body. Now, a really fun detail that we can do is we can cut it out. So we can get a little bit sexy with our shirts. We can play around. We all know I love a cutout detail. So, of course, this is a cutout detail showing the shoulder blades. But we've still got our pleat, and they've taken the pleat and actually put it into the yoke going into the collar. So that's a really fun idea as well. You can really take that pleat and extend it up. This one's really fitted, so you can see there's a back opening, but you can cut it out in different ways as well. You could cut it out like that and create a cowl with your excess back length. You can pleat it in there as well, creating a little facing for it. And I think we've got another example on our Pinterest board where we have a yoke and then a frill inserted into the bottom of the yoke, and then the whole back is just bare. So it's another take on the cutout. And I think we spoke about back cutout details in our first drafting diaries of the year, and you can take those ideas and put them into shirts as well. That's a really fun thing about cutouts, is you can really make them your own. You can experiment with them. They can be fitted like this, they can be loose, you can do all kinds of things. And you can see this one actually has like a placket running down that edge as well.
Yeah, I really like it. And of course, that I was thinking that placket supports it all, so that's actually the structure holding it all together. And then the pretend yoke is just like a fun detail. It's purely aesthetic. It doesn't hold it together anymore.
Yeah.
So you can make it really
that like the back left and right will go up onto the top of the sleeve head, right into the shoulder. No tension.
Yeah.
And I love that they've taken the pleat all the way up to the back neckline as well, and it creates like a pleated frill, which is really fun.
Yeah. But I also think when you look at images like that, even you know how they just stitched that pleat down just for a few centimeters, and that's always really important when you have a pleat going into something. If you stitch it for a few centimeters, it basically behaves much better rather than it's sort of springing out of your neckline. And also I quite like it because normally like cutouts are like evening wear, but this is quite a daytime friendly version of a yoke.
Yeah, it's more of a casual take, which fits the shirts, I guess.
Yes.
And I think going back to what you were saying about stitching down the pleat, particularly in the back neck area, like our whole garment hangs from our neck and our shoulders. So stitching that pleat down is our neckline and means the whole garment's not going to swing forward. It's protecting the balance of the garment.
And also, otherwise, you would get like a sort of hump, wouldn't you? Like just by pleating it down, it suddenly becomes a downward pleat, like what you want. You want that shirting detail rather than like a sort of circle coming out of it. And the next yoke we both loved, and if you're my membership, you will recognize it because it was our drafting tutorial, one of the drafting tutorials in beginning of March, and this really lovely crossover volume detail. And I always sort of use that detail quite a lot on the center front. I really like because it's so clever, but it's really nice used here on the back, and it's sort of an exaggerated pleat detail, and you just do something clever where you sort of fold it over and you can create extra volume and create that sort of fold over detail. And have a look, it's called the crossover front on my membership. Have a look at that if you're interested in doing that. But again, it's like you don't have to have just a pleat on your yoke at the back. You could have a big fold over detail like that. You can have a frill, as Kate mentioned, or you could have gathered fabric as well, which makes a lot softer, which is quite pretty as well for a summer dress, for example. I always think a pleat is more sharp, sort of quite menswear influenced, and then the gathers are a bit more dressy and be
a bit more feminine.
Yes, but really beautiful in a cotton lawn or something, or silk.
Yes. Oh, yes. I think what I love about this particular pleated example is that you're taking that very traditional idea of having a box pleat at the back yoke, and you're flipping it around and turning on its head and creating something new and totally beautiful with that, but still with the essence of the pleat at the back.
Yes, and again, it's quite feminine, isn't it? It's quite good fun. So
yeah, definitely.
That's the second pleat. And the last yoke we are looking at is actually not on the back.
Yeah, so this is a different position for our yoke, also called a bib. Most of you will know, I call it a tuxedo shirt, but I think it's often called a dress shirt as well, like a traditional men's dress shirt. Charlotta, you might have.
I was going to say there's as many words for it as there's shirt styles. I think it's white tie, black tie, dress shirt. I have, it also
basically the one that you wear under tuxedos. So normally they have like a front yoke or bib built into the shirt, and it normally has pin tucks in it. And I love this detail because it's such a classic menswear detail for formal wear, and it looks incredible when you put it on a woman and turn it into women's wear and do something more like this, where you do pin tucks going the opposite direction, do it in a soft feminine fabric. And there are a bunch of other examples that we have that show slightly different ways of working this. You don't have to do the traditional curved shirt. You could do something like this, which is a little bit sharper. Again, playing with that idea of masculine and feminine. And you can do all kinds of little shapes. Like if you wanted to, you could do more of like a bottom of a heart shape where it's a bit more curved. You could do all kinds of things. You could do a contrast fabric. You could do a different color as well as a contrast like weave. And you can mix up your fabrics and all kinds of things. It's really cool.
Yes, it's a really nice detail. And what I quite like about this is contrast with a really drapey body. So again, it contrasts what is sort of quite floaty and feminine with like a really sharp bib, which is a really nice detail. And as Kate said, if you sort of go into that whole evening style look, you can also have lots of fun with, having like little, not diamonds, but you have precious stones or whatever, or glass, but have a bit of fun with how you're actually fastening, or whether you have a hidden button stand, all this sort of stuff. That's a really nice detail. And of course, you can make it much short. You can have lots of fun with it, isn't it? Direction, frills, always very 70s, isn't it?
Yeah, frills, love a frill. Yeah, you can really play with your proportions and really kind of turn it on it again. Like I just love the idea of taking a really masculine detail and just making it really feminine by changing the proportions of fabrics and giving it a totally different feel.
Yes. And have a look around shops, because they also do interesting stuff with the collars, dress shirts, because men's dress shirts is different thing from day wear. So you have lots of fun. I also think it'd be quite nice if you made it, if you made it really short, so it just became a little frill coming, out of your button stand. So it moves.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, you can have lots of options. So the last thing. I'm gonna wait. Oh, you.
Hello.
Yeah, just like it just sounded like you're breaking.
Oh, sorry.
The last shirt detail we're gonna talk about is cuffs, and that's also gonna be the topic for our 2 live lessons. And the reason is that that's something is never talked about. We decided, so we're gonna do something unusual, something also you forget about, but you have lots of fun with. And so next week we're gonna teach you how to learn to draft 3 quite innovative ways of doing cuffs. And then for the last drafty diaries of the month, we're going to talk about construction tips on cuffs in general, and also on the ones he showed you. So lots of sort of hints on getting them right. And we both love a cuff because it's a really nice detail, because your hands are actually quite often near your face. So, they're always in the picture. And the cuff details we really liked. They're one really nice vintage ones. And I will try to get a clearer image for next week. But it's a really nice interpretation of it. When you get these Oxford shirts and they have contrast wide cuffs. And again, this is like a sort of 1950s feminine version of it, where you have a organza shirt, and then you have this really nice cuff, which sort of then comes out and folds over each other. So we're going to have this fun with that next week, showing you how you can draft. That's different options. And then the second cuff we really liked was this one. Do you want to tell us a bit about it, Kate?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I, again, love this idea of taking feminine ideas and putting it into a masculine setting, or vice versa. So this one is actually relatively easy to draft, but as you can see, is so can't think of the word. Effective. That's what. Yeah. And this one really often, I think, cuffs are kind of forgotten about. They're just little things we finish off a sleeve with. But like Charlotta said, often our hands are closest to our face, and we use our hands and we look at people's hands all day. So using this idea of taking the cuff and making a huge feature out of it, so it's actually the main feature of the sleeve, is really fun, and something that we really wanted to focus on. So you can see we've got like little strips through our cuff, and we've got multiple frills inserted into those, and you can see there are also different heights and widths as well, and different gallery issues. So there's a lot in there, but yeah, we'll speak about it more in our drafting tutorial.
And I think this one, the drafting is easy. I think the construction order is really interesting for this one. So I'm quite looking forward to sharing and comparing how we both would draft and construct this. And I think it's very historical as well. It's sort of a nice interpretation of sort of, again, like you can sort of imagine like a pirate or sort of swashbuckling, isn't it? Hero of like a romantic story wearing a shirt like that. But then it's reinterpreted for a really elegant shirt. And the last one we both found really wearable for day wear is like a 3D detail like that, where actually it grows back into the sleeve and becomes a nice 3D detail. And the nice thing about learning 3D detail like that, again, is that you can actually put it anywhere on your clothes. So that, again, could grow out of a button stand. It could grow out of your yoke. We're all drafted the same way, but we thought it might be quite unusual to look at it on the cuff rather than the more usual bodice or sleeve. So these are the 3 cuff styles we're going to look at for our drafting and construction levels lessons over the drafting lesson is next week, and then the construction lesson is the last Tuesday of the month, isn't it? We switch strings around a bit. So we put
so it's on the 25th.
Yes. So the drafting lessons on the 11th and the construction lessons on the 25th, and you can just join us via the link in the bio. And as always, there's a discount if you join both of us. So each one is £10 if you're just interested in one of them, and 2 together is
17.
There you go. Kate is in charge. You can tell.
And don't forget that if you do give our drafting tutorial from last month a go, post about it on Instagram, because we are going to give our favorite student, I guess, a free ticket for next week and the 25th. So there's still time to do that. We have already seen a lovely example. And I know lots of you said you were going to give it a go. So do that, because we'd love to see your work.
Yes, you still got a week nearly. We will
Exactly.
keep options open until then. So let's have a look if we've got any questions. If you have any questions, do feel free to type them in the chat. Otherwise, we will see you next week, because I know it's very late where Kate is, because you're an hour ahead, isn't it? So thank you
I am an hour ahead, yeah.
making time.
An hour is not bad though, it's fine.
Let's see where people are liking them. It's weird, because I think shirts are one of those things which is sort of quite overlooked, but it's actually like something, once you start wearing it's a real nice sort of daytime statement, isn't it? You can just put it on with anything, like, jeans, shorts, dresses, and it just look really fun.
And a well-cut shirt, and a well-cut shirt is so beautiful as well. It's like a bit of a standing joke, like a pattern cutter's uniform is like blue jeans and a really interestingly cut white shirt.
Yes.
Because every pattern cutter can appreciate those lovely little thought out details.
Yeah, and a really nice densely woven cotton, isn't it? That sort of cotton which has that shine is really cool to wear.
Yeah.
And it's quite this, like, because this was a board dress and I had to change so much. I think that's what I like about drafting yourself as well, because that shoulder line is still not perfect, but if you make your own, you can get like the perfect shoulder for you, the perfect collar, everything to work for you. Yes, black roll neck, white shirt, and a pair of jeans. All look like,
love it. Classic. Like, absolute
so
classic.
basic, but it'd be like incredibly expensive and well drafted.
Love it.
Good. It sounds like we're really clear. So everybody seems to be happy. No questions. Wonderful. Yes, do share if you make the spiral cut dress or top or detail from last week. And then we look forward to seeing all of you next Tuesday at the same time, the live lesson. And then, of course, in May, we are back with Drafting Diaries on YouTube, on Kate's channel. So make sure to subscribe to her channel as well, so you get notified when we go live there. But that's it from us for today. Thank you so much for joining and watching. We would love a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, because it really helps with pushing the live on the YouTube algorithm. That'd be great. But that's it. And now from us and our shirt details. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for watching.